Welcome to the 13th episode of PluginIndia Show. I'm Amit.
And I'm Rafe.
Rafe, 13 episodes. It just went like a snap of a finger.
Yes, Amit, and we're already at a place where we never imagined we'll get so many episodes done.
Yeah, exactly. So let me just tell you once again that this and all the episodes of PluginIndia Show are brought to you by our amazing Patreon and YouTube members. By supporting us, you not just let us give you neutral EV industry analysis, but keep the show completely independent.
And if you support us using our YouTube channel membership or our Patreon subscribership, then you get access to our Discord server.
Wow.
And that enables you to instantaneously interact with Plugin India team members and even help give the show direction.
So Rafa, have you heard this song from this movie Delhi 6? Ye Dilli hai mere yaar.
Not that I can remember, Anand.
Let me play it for you.
All right.
बस्ती है मस्तानों की दिल्ली दिल्ली गली है दीवानों की दिल्ली 6 बस्ती है मस्तानों की दिल्ली दिल्ली गली है दीवानों की दिल्ली 6.
So Rafi, when we were researching on the Delhi state EV policy, I could not help but notice that Ishq Mohabbat Pyar for the electric vehicles by the Delhi state government that song is just stuck in my head.
So ये है दिल्ली वालों का इश्क EV.
So moving on to our first news item in the EV news, and it is about the Delhi EV policy. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal, during a press conference on the 7th of August 2020, released electric vehicle policies which will help boost the economy and also create jobs in Delhi and around the city. We went through the Delhi EV policy, and these are the main points that we would like to highlight. First and most important point is the financial incentives for purchasing an EV. When you buy an EV, there is no road tax and registration fees. Delhi government will focus on charging stations, battery swap stations, and an open database of these stations. They are also creating a dedicated EV cell for spreading awareness. Points have been mentioned about creating a battery recycling ecosystem. Finally, they are creating a state EV fund.
Another awesome point about the Delhi EV policy is that the amount of support that they are rolling out for individual and large businesses who use delivery vehicles. These delivery vehicles have been slated to be 50% electric vehicles by 2023.
Wow.
And they are going to transition to 100% electric vehicles by 2025. So guys, if you are a food delivery business or an e-commerce logistics provider,
Yep.
or a courier, then you should definitely transition to electric, and this is the path going forward. Well, Amit, if you remember last time in our episode, we had covered how so many of these ICE vehicle courier delivery service people are shifting to electrics.
Correct.
This policy from the Delhi government will definitely encourage more of such businesses to go electric.
Yes, and the focus of the Delhi government has actually been on electric two-wheelers because 2/3 of the registered vehicles are two-wheelers. And the Delhi government will actually be offering rupees 5,000 per kilowatt hour up to rupees 30,000 subsidy for these electric two-wheelers. So let's take a few examples here. So the ex-showroom price of the Revolt electric motorcycle after FAME 2 subsidy is rupees 1,03,999 in other cities. In Delhi, the Revolt will have a subsidy of rupees 16,200 to cost rupees 87,799 because the battery pack is about 3.2 kilowatt hour. So the pure EV ePluro 7G having an ex-showroom price after the FAME 2 subsidy is about rupees 80,000 in other cities. In Delhi, it will have a rupees 14,500 state subsidy, and it will cost you 65,500 because it has a battery pack size of 2.9 kilowatt hour.
That's absolutely awesome, Amit, because these high-powered electric scooters are now available for less than a price of, say, an Activa.
Yep.
This will encourage many people to go electric, I'm sure.
Yes. Ishq hai EV.
Also, with the elimination of RTO, registration and road tax, this will make this a very easy solution for Delhiites. It will just be the cost of the vehicle plus the insurance.
So Rafi, another awesome scheme in the Delhi EV policy is for e-autos, where they are encouraging scrapping the pollution autos, and for which they're giving them rupees 7,500, and they're also giving a subsidy of rupees 30,000 for buying a e-auto. This will encourage self-employment and wide ownership of e-autos, and they are also giving a subsidy for goods carriers of up to rupees 30,000.
Wonderful, Amit. There's more news here as far as buildings, commercial and residential are concerned. There's going to be a 20% parking reservation,
Wow.
which means 25% of the parking areas have to be for electric vehicles.
Would there also be a charging point with it?
Yes, that's the next thing. What they're going to do is they're going to make it compulsory for residences and these commercial buildings to install electric vehicle charging points.
Wow, that'll be
So
nice.
so we can see in the next few years a lot of new charging points are going to start coming up all over the Delhi NCR area. So Amit, there's also going to be a grant and a subsidy for setting up charging points in these residential and commercial buildings.
So we wanted to get more insights on the industry, on the EV policies. So we spoke to Mr. Kanv Garg from EY, and who has been involved in a lot of EV policy for the state. So let's speak to him and get some insights, shall we?
Hey Kanv, thanks for talking to us. We were discussing the salient points of the Delhi EV policy, and we see many states are releasing their own EV policy documents. States like Maharashtra, Karnataka, Telangana and others have released EV policies, and these policies are fantastic for encouraging the EV industry and also create self-employment and opportunities for small business. But we feel that it will take more than a year or so to actually start seeing changes on the ground. We see a lot of excitement and hype wherever there is a new policy launch. Why do you think that is?
See, electric vehicles is a new topic, and absolutely, policies are the driving force, and they give a lot of clarity to the private sector to invest their funds. So absolutely, policy making or the right policy making is the first step, and that's why it gets all the private sector excited because it does have a novelty factor. For example, if you just take the Delhi policy covers all the two-wheelers, the fleet-based two-wheelers, three-wheelers, battery swapping, charging infrastructure, and incentives around scrapping as well. So, it's a new thing, it's a forward-looking thing, so that's why I think it creates all the excitement.
Right.
Hey Khan, this is Amit here.
Hi, Amit.
Hey, so EV policies are fantastic and great, and it's a great start, right? But in order to actually see real changes, we also need regulations from states, like, and municipalities, the actual execution of the whole thing. So what do you think are the next steps now for the state governments to push EVs further?
Absolutely. So, just to round up your previous question as well, policies are a great starting point, and they cause a lot of excitement.
Yes.
For me, policy launches are just the flavor of that month kind of a thing. It is just like a news article which is taking our attention levels today on the televisions. But after 4 days, you will have a new news item. For example, a few months back, we had the Tamil Nadu policy coming up, the Tamil Nadu EV policy. And suddenly, there was a lot of excitement in the market that yes, Tamil Nadu, is attracting investments. That's the best policy ever. And before that, we had the Karnataka policy, the Maharashtra policy, and right now, not to miss the Telangana policy with the Delhi one already. So my only point is that these policies, though they continue to cause the excitement, they are not the one-all and be-all of the entire thing.
Yep.
Again, from my perspective, don't get me wrong, policies are very important. But let me ask you guys also this, that we have more than 10 states in our country which have come out with electric vehicle policies over the last 3 years.
Yep.
Is there a tab taking on the progress made by private sector in those states? For example, I say that the Karnataka policy is very good, and Karnataka is a great state in terms of attracting private sector investments. My question to you is, after the Karnataka policy was launched, has Karnataka seen an uptake in terms of electric vehicles or their investment by the private sector? Similarly, my question is on Tamil Nadu. This is where, Amit, your question is extremely pertinent that yes, policies are good, but the sector also needs operational guidelines to be built in.
Correct.
Because this is a new space. This is like a space, which everybody, people like you, me, industry are exploring in terms of business models. Battery swapping versus charging, form factors of electric vehicles. How do the banks want to consider financing electric vehicles? So my point is, people should not stop their excitement at the policy level. They should demand operational level clarity as well from the various sub-ministries who have to implement these policies. So I'll just round up by saying that policies, yes, extremely important, but how those policies are getting implemented is where the proof of the pudding lies.
Great.
That's right. Thanks, Khan. Those were some great insights, and we really appreciate talking to you whenever we talk about electric vehicles. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us.
Sure, Rafael.
Right,
Sure.
right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So, Amit, I think that was some great insight from Kanv over there about how EV policy is made.
Yep.
And I think the next step is that some regulations need to be made and laid down so that these policies can be implemented.
Yes.
We've got some tweets from popular figures in the EV space. And the first tweet is from Anand Mahendra. And he says, Delhi is rightfully the cradle of the EV revolution. This policy has set a new benchmark. It is a template which, if emulated, can provide new momentum to the EV movement in India. Another tweet that we have is from our very own Chetan Maini, and he says, congratulations to Delhi for releasing a robust and inclusive EV policy for New Delhi, #New Delhi, that can accelerate adoptions of #EVs, while also boosting the job market. Looking forward to seeing effective implementation and collaboration to drive the change.
So we have linked the Delhi EV policy in the description below. You can go ahead and read it and do comment on what you think about the EV policy. And if you have any two bits to add to our conversation with Mr. Kanv. So moving on to our second news item, Ampere Electric on Wednesday launched its first battery subscription plan, and in partnership with Autovert Technologies. The battery subscription plan will actually reduce the cost of the vehicle to 49,990, and the subscription plan is for the battery is about 1990. So the latest Magnus Pro scooter can be purchased by paying 49,990 at a monthly battery subscription of 1990. Commenting on the partnership, P. Sanjeev, the COO of Ampere Vehicles, said, "We are happy to partner with Autovert Technologies to introduce this unique battery subscription plan. With this association, clubbed with special Ampere Freedom offers, we are aiming to make Ampere vehicles more affordable and accessible for the consumer."
That's great to hear, Amit. Indian consumers are generally very sensitive to sticker prices. And so with the 73,990 price cut down by about half to 49,990, I think it will make it and a monthly payment. But that's the cost of fuel, I guess.
Yes.
So that makes it a very attractive proposition for the Indian consumer, I believe.
So Rafe, the battery leasing scheme in the Indian EV industry is nothing new, because in 2014, Mahindra Electric launched their E2Os with the battery leasing scheme.
That's right. I remember many E2 owners, Amit, including myself, had paid about 7.2 lakhs for their cars back in 2013.
Yes.
And then Mahindra came out with the battery leasing scheme, which reduced the upfront sticker price to 5.5 lakhs.
Yep, and it was very popular.
And it was very popular. Many people purchased the car because of that. And I think overall, Ampere Electric has done a very good move by getting this scheme out. And all the other OEMs also need to do this to give people more options and more ways in which to purchase EVs.
Agreed, Rafe. EV OEMs have to offer their customers all the options, right from outright purchase, battery leasing, vehicle leasing. The more the options, it is easier for them to convert to electric and abandon their ICE vehicles. So do note, Ampere has actually tied up with Autovert Technologies to provide the battery leasing option only in Bengaluru, and they are very soon going to be launching it pan-India. At PluginIndia, we always give you the real facts about electric vehicles, batteries and their charging and so on. And when it comes to EVs, we also expose ICE auto OEMs and the mainstream media and also the polluting vehicle media. But for a change, we have a refreshing article on the Forbes website which is focusing on the EV sales and why the sales have been low worldwide despite the EV economy efficiency and performance. And that is what is the third news item today.
That's right, Amit. And we have Mr. James Morris, who's written the article, and he says that there is a huge amount of cynicism as far as EVs are concerned. This is something that we experience at PluginIndia as well.
Yeah.
This is exactly the kind of hate we face when we put out articles and content which promote electric vehicles. The hate that these EVs evoke reminds us and the author of the political debates that happen in Parliament. We totally agree. We feel that the petrol heads and the fossil fuel lovers hate EVs so much that any argument, any article online evokes a debate and an argument, just like in the Parliament House between the secular liberals and nationalists in India, or the progressives and the establishments in the US. It all seems to be driven by a fundamental aversion to change. These people don't want to change, and the establishment wants to keep things as it is, maintain the status quo, and that's why all of this hate erupts.
The author also talks about how there are lack of EV options in the market and quotes Rupert Mitchell, who's a chief strategy officer of a Chinese manufacturer, WM Motors, and says the reason there is not so much choice in the EV market is because existing manufacturers don't want to sell electric cars. Mitchell argues that it's no surprise that the major players in the EV space are usually not established auto manufacturers and are disruptive newcomers like Tesla, BYD, and other only EV manufacturers.
And Amit, that's the case here in India too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of potential in the Indian market. A lot of electric two-wheelers will be sold if only the manufacturers came up with options to give the public.
Yes.
And if people had electric scooters to buy, I'm sure they would go for it. Despite that, Amit, two-wheeler manufacturers continue to make ICE vehicles, and I think that's because they have a legacy of ICE vehicle manufacture. Like Bajaj, for instance, has launched the Chetak Electric, which is a wonderful product, but they are limiting the reach of it. They are not really expanding the cities of operation. Just like that, TVS has the iQube, which is an electric scooter, but again, they are limiting the manufacture, they're limiting the product distribution to just a few cities.
Yeah, and it's been 6 months.
And it's been 6 months since they're there. And then there's Hero MotoCorp, Honda, Vespa, Suzuki. These people are giant ICE two-wheeler manufacturers, and they're not giving a single option for electric vehicles.
And it's mid-2020 already.
That's right, Amit. And it seems that these big ICE car manufacturers are playing the anti-EV card, and there is delay the EV movement game that's happening, and it's happening in India as well, not just the West.
Yes. So the author also tells us how auto dealers don't want to sell EVs. The article says the salespeople in dealers have little knowledge of EVs, making it genuinely hard to buy one. Anecdotal accounts of showrooms in the US allege that salespeople there try to actively discourage EV sales, instead directing customers back to ICE. This is likely because car sales margins are traditionally low and they make their money selling aftermarket service packages, which are almost not needed with EVs.
That's Amit. This is something that we've experienced ourselves in real life.
True.
There was a resident in our society, and he has a parking space right next to us. And he wanted to give up his old car and buy a small car.
Okay.
And what he wanted to do was to buy the E2O. And we gave him all the calculations, the numbers, and we convinced him to buy an electric car. With which information he went to the showroom, and there the dealer at the Mahindra showroom convinced him to buy a KUV instead.
Wow. And this actually happened with me too. I mean, very recently when the Tata Nexon EV was launched, I put in an inquiry on their website, and actually after a few days, somebody actually responded to my query. And he's like, hey sir, why are you buying the Nexon EV? Why don't you just buy the Nexon, the petrol version? I was like,
dude,
I have an electric vehicle already and I want to buy another one. So that's the query that I'm putting in. And why are you deselling already? So I've not even reached the showroom.
Exactly. There are a lot of games happening.
Yeah.
And it's happening in India as well, guys. So beware. We definitely feel, Amit, that dealers are making more money on the incentives when they sell a petrol or an ICE car than they are on EVs.
Correct. Finally, the author ends with this paragraph. If you've driven an EV with an open mind, you will have realized how effortless and smooth it is. EVs are not perfect, but in many ways, EVs are now just better than their fossil fuel forebears. Cleaner, requiring less maintenance, faster, more reliable, even more spacious. That's not going to be enough for EVs to succeed, however. There are a lot of vested interest in fossil fuel vehicles, not just the fuel industry itself or even the manufacturers, but also the showroom networks and service centers. This is what needs to be addressed for EVs to succeed, and it will take quite a bit of effort to do so.
Mr. James Morris, we salute your investigative journalism on this article. You've really shown a side of the ICE industry, the pollution vehicle OEMs, playing these dirty games to keep EVs suppressed, to make sure that they keep on selling more polluting products. They don't really care about us, they don't care about the planet. All they're caring about is lining their own pocketbooks.